I'm excited about people that watch this might come away now with an idea on, having a legacy doesn't mean you have to be super famous like Maya Angelou or, Steve Jobs or someone like that. No, you can have your own legacy that's going to influence your current generation and future generations in a positive way. So think about it, that, all of your actions really are important and can make a difference to someone else's life.
Absolutely.
Here he is. What's up,
Good morning.
Nick? How
How
are you?
are you?
Morning.
Great.
I just was talking a little bit about legacy and why we're coming on together today, how we both feel how critically important it is to really focus on it in your life to give you, used it this morning, we were chatting about your North Star.
Well, I mean, I'll give you my 2 cents on it. If you think about legacy, it's really how people are going to remember you. And people are going to remember you based on your actions and your decisions, the choices over the course of your life, right? So I think about that quite often, especially when it comes to my boys.
I shared with you that my favorite quote by Maya Angelou, who says, people won't remember what you did, people won't remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. And I use that as a guiding principle for me when I think about my day-to-day activities in this business and everything else. But Nick, why don't you take a second and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do and why you're so interested in legacy. You're a financial advisor, so clearly you talk to your clients about it a lot, but I'd love to hear your take on it.
Yeah, so my background, grew up lower middle class. My parents were two very hardworking people, very successful in life, not so much from a financial materialistic standpoint, but and I'll talk a little bit about this as we get into it, but they set a very strong legacy that I probably wasn't even all that aware of, Mark, until my father died 17 years ago. And I had the honor of giving his eulogy. And it really forced me to sit and think quietly, about who my father was. And I think from that unfortunate event, tragic event to me, but that was really the springboard of me thinking about my legacy with my children, the community as a whole, my business partners, my clients. So to answer your question more directly, we have a boutique financial planning firm. We work with about 100 high net worth families. And when it comes to estate planning, typically clients are thinking about how do you save money on taxes or transition or transfer a business. But we always get into these really deep discussions about the values that they want to pass as well. And so legacy is, even though we may not call it that as part of estate planning, it's really the foundation for that whole process.
I'm in the middle of writing this book, and that's how all of these words came up. And I sending out emails each week to a group of men and getting replies back. And your replies on legacy really moved me. I thought it made sense for us just to get on and chat about it. But what I am surprised at is how many of the men who are replying to the questions around legacy say things like, well, that's not really important to me, or haven't given that much thought, maybe I should, or no, I just want to be a good dad and that's it. And, there's not really a wrong way to go about this, but I think helping people realize that all of their actions day in and day out are their legacy. It's not like, you don't even have to say, I'm going to create one. You're creating it. And Jody and I talked a lot about when we retired in 2018, that if we were to write our obituary or someone were to give a eulogy, that wasn't that long ago, our life stories are full. Great families, great careers, great work with nonprofits. But I was 62 years old. I'm going to live to be 100. So if we don't do anything new or different for the next 30 or 40 years, no one's going to give a shit about that because it's old news, right?
Yep.
So it's really, what do we do, like from today, everyone who's watching this, what do we do today going forward on your legacy and just making it more purposeful in your life?
Well, I mean, I would look at a couple of different areas, right? So, in the way I think about it, it's, well, what impressions, what values, what behaviors, what ethics am I trying to instill in my children?
Right.
Because that which I instill in my children, they're likely to instill in a marriage. That marriage is likely to instill in their children, and so on that goes. And that was a very strong component of what I got from my parents. And if I think about who my parents' were, it was a very strong component of what they got from their parents. As I think
Yeah.
back on each side's, each side of my family's grandparents, I think about my relationship with my wife. Right. If I tomorrow's my last day, how do I want her to remember me and my actions and tolerance and patience and all of that. I think about my business partners. I certainly have obligations to them, but I don't want to just meet my obligations. I want to make them better people in their lives as well. I think about the community. And I'm like you, and you and I actually met wonderfully through nonprofit work a number of years
Right.
back. And I think one of the reasons we sort of naturally became friends is because we had so much in common. But I think about the nonprofits I'm engaged with, but even the nonprofits I'm not engaged with. I want to leave them in a better place. And one of
Yeah.
the things I say often is, if you're fortunate enough to have money, it's easy to write a check.
Right.
But really getting involved in an organization and making a difference, right? Bringing valuable relationships and helping the organization maybe see more clearly how to be successful in meeting their mission, honoring the people that are doing all of that work. I think that's part of legacy. So back to your question, if someone was going to sort of challenge themselves to think maybe a little bit more intently about it, I would suggest they look at the different aspects of their lives and the different people in the aspects of those aspects of their lives, and think about, well, what impact do I want to have with my
Well,
children,
yeah.
with my grandchildren, with my wife, with my community, and then start to write down actions that are consistent with that
Yeah.
impact, and then reflect on how consistently are you meeting those.
Yeah, I love that. I think if we break it down and discuss each one separately for a minute or two, when you think about family, clearly, I know you have children. Jody and I have 6 children. We already have 2 grandchildren. So that train has left the station, so to speak.
Right.
We have these children who are between, I'll get this wrong, 25 and 37, and pretty much our influence is there, and our legacy with those kids is built. But we also can, and if you don't have children, by the way, and a lot of people don't, you have nephews and nieces and godchildren, whoever it is, you can influence that next generation of people. But you, when you talk about getting a piece of paper and make a list, maybe check in with yourself, with your children or the next generation. How are you doing? Do you need to change anything? Do you need to tweak anything? Am I really being a good role model for those children when I'm with them? So I think that's a good way to approach the next generation. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's some things that I've tried to be very intentional about talking to my boys about. One is commitment to family. One is honoring relationships. One is integrity, and I think integrity is a big part of the first two there.
Yeah.
I also think it's important, Mark, to be humble and give back.
Yeah.
I think it's really important, and I unfortunately feel some of this is lost in where we're at as a society today. But achievement and satisfaction through consistent hard work in spite of adversity. And I also want my boys to prioritize health and fitness.
Yeah.
And there's other things, but those are really kind of the 6 tenets that I talk a lot about. I try and lead through example around. And if we were meeting in person, I'd share this with you. But I took a couple of cards from my kids. One was Father's Day, and one was for my birthday. And I'll just read one of these to you. But Dad, thank you for being the best father I could ever ask for, and thank you for working so hard for the family. Thank you for mentoring me every day to be my best self and being a great role model. Whether you're taking me to my next basketball tournament, giving me advice on certain things, or supporting me, you're always there. Have a great birthday. Love, my son. And so I
How
hear
old is
all
he?
of
How
that.
old is he when he wrote that?
He's 17.
That's amazing. That's such a great reflection on you as a father. So congratulations. I love that. And thank you for
Well, and
sharing that.
no, absolutely. I'm glad to. But, I read that and I obviously was very touched as a father, but I also hear elements of what we talk about all the time in
Yeah. You know, we talked about family and you touched on, in both of our cases, a wife. And if you're married, your spouse or your partner, are you really, treating them the way you should treat them? Are you loving them the way you should love them? You can, again, sort of assess where you're at, and you can always up your game. You can always do better. I think you can always do better at anything. I mean, we all have what I would call Michael Jordan ability at something. So what is that? And one of it should be your partner. I mean, without a doubt, to make sure that if something did happen to you or me today, and they stood up and they had to say a few words, that they're positive and affirming and loving and kind. And that's what you want to be.
there. Yeah, absolutely. We had a reality check about 12 years ago. Lisa was diagnosed with cancer. And for me, it certainly forced me to become very aware of all the things I was taking for granted and maybe not giving as much gratitude for as I should have.
Yeah.
So, but no, you're 100% right. And in my opinion, that's the most important relationship in my life. It's always going to be the most important relationship in my life. If that's not okay, nothing else is.
Well, then we, it's true. And then we have our careers that define us in a way for a long period of time. And for me, I was an entrepreneur and a business owner, built a business and then sold it. And now Jody and I started a new business. But, core to who I was for 40 years was an insurance broker in Westchester County, New York, and running that business and taking care of the employees and all of that, building a true legacy that it's funny, I thought it would last forever. But when we sold it to Brown and Brown, they're a bit large, publicly held insurance brokerage firm, sixth largest in the country. And he said, you can keep your name, but after a while, it just doesn't make sense to keep your name. So you become another Brown and Brown office, which isn't bad. The office still exists. There's 80 people there. They're doing really well. A lot of my old teammates are there, but I don't matter anymore. I mean, while my great grandfather started in 1910, that's not a thing anymore. There's no picture on the wall. There's no mention of my name. Once in a while, probably, but rarely. Clients are all taken care of. So the business legacy it kind of has a beginning and an end, right? And then you just want to make sure you're doing the right thing every day. And if you're still in your career or you're young in your career, you have to pay attention to this.
Yeah, but don't underestimate the impact and the legacy you did create there for the 40 years with the 80 people that work in that office, the mortgages that got paid, the college educations that got paid for, but the impact that you personally had, knowing you as well as I do, your character, your integrity, the way that you mentored people and developed people. I mean, that's not just living, that's just not, that continues to live on not just in the people that work there, even though your name may not be on it, but in their kids and their grandkids, their families, the clients you worked with. Don't underestimate, because Mark's name's not on there anymore, that Mark isn't very much part of that culture and that ethos.
Well, I appreciate that. That's very kind of you to say it. I really mean that. I guess part of my point was it's over though, right? I'm not there. So what do I do now these next 30 or 40 years? And I think I'd like you to help with this a little bit. What about financial legacy? We all want to leave some of our hard-earned money to our children to make their life easy, or maybe help them along the way to buy a house or something like that. And we'll do nonprofits in a minute, but what about your 100 clients that are high net worth individuals? What is the sense on what they want to do or what you suggest they do from a financial legacy point of view?
Well, it really differs depending on who the clients are. Most are business owners, and some very much want the next generation, if they want to be involved and have that facilitation of opportunity. Some, and this isn't really dependent on any particular industry, but some are just kind of beaten down and they want their kids to maybe have an easier life than it is to be an entrepreneur and be a business owner.
Yeah.
There's a fine balance, I think, and this is different for everyone, but there's a fine balance, I think, when you have created enough financial success that you can benefit the next generation, that you actually benefit the next generation and don't disable or disincentivize the next generation. And so we try, and I don't preach values to clients, but I try and use our situation because I'm willing to talk openly about it and some of our struggles and some of the solutions we found to help other people think through that fine balance, right? You don't want your son or daughter or your son or daughter's family getting so much money that it disables them, it disincents them. If you don't create something on your own, you have no sense of satisfaction in that. Right? Yeah. That which we're given, we never place the same emphasis on as that which we've earned. And
true. Yeah, it is. It is hard it's a hard balance to see your children suffer or struggle, or, we have 6 kids all making different amounts of money, living in different parts of the country, living in different size apartments, and we could help them all, and we do help them, on an even consistent basis. But like you said so much, you don't want to make it too easy. You do want them to be successful. So my dad, who was a Marine, was really hard on me. And, I had to figure it out myself. I mean, I had to be the first one in the office and I had to be the last one to leave. And I did all the grunt work. It's the way he trained me, and that was fine.
First in, last out. That's the Marine credo.
I know. I didn't listen. I started cutting the grass when I was 11. Not knocking my kids at all, but none of them ever cut the grass. It was a different time for us. I always worked during the summer. With my kids, we went away on vacation, so they really couldn't get a job as a lifeguard. So it changes over time, but clearly it's no matter how much money you have, I think there's this desire inside that when your time comes to go, you want to leave something behind for them to remember you by.
Yeah, agreed. And so we've tried to be very thoughtful about that. It evolves sometimes, it changes sometimes. I do talk very openly with both of our children about that. More so our 22-year-old than our 17-year-old, but I'm transparent on what we have and how we think about it and where it came from. And, I always say, you see how it is now, you don't see how it was 25 years ago. And you said we'll get into the nonprofits. We've made some very serious commitments as part of our estate plan to nonprofits, but in such a way that our children will be able to ultimately drive and decide what their legacy will be.
That's great.
I don't want to dictate the causes when I'm not here. We've done some things to take care of organizations that are important to us, but we've also created through a community foundation, a family foundation, whereby our children will be the advisors and get to decide what organizations they're going to support.
I love that.
When your kids know how to read a 990, that's probably not something most know how to do.
We actually did the same thing when we sold our company. We put money aside in a community trust, and every year, what we've been doing is having the kids at holiday time make a pitch for a nonprofit of their choice, and we tell them all 6 kids have to come forth with one organization, what it means to them, why they want us to give money to it, and they make a little presentation to the whole family. And then Jody and I will give $1,000 to each of those organizations, and it helps the kids. It gives them a little bit of, and 2 of them matched it 2 years ago, because so it just, it's, I think we did a YouTube episode on that. It's just a really great way to start teaching your kids, as we're talking and I'm thinking, I have this saying, like, if I knew what I knew now at the age of 25, imagine how much more successful I would have been. And then listening to you, I'm thinking, that's what we need to do, is really unload all of our information to our kids and to their friends to give them that edge to make them more successful. That's part of the reason why I'm writing this book. It's a book for men on really how to live a life moving towards living a life of unconditional love. So things like legacy and gratitude and everything you talked about before, these strong values are so important. You know, I'm excited to even do more with my kids. That's
great. There's one other aspect to this I want to talk about quickly, and it's something I learned years ago from someone. I'm not going to get into who it is, but one of the more philanthropic people in the Hudson Valley had asked me to support by a multi-year commitment a program that was part of an overall nonprofit. And I said to him that I would make a multi-year commitment to supporting that program. And he said to me, "What do you want to call it?" I said, "I don't understand." He goes, "Well, we need to call it something, the Preddice this or the Preddice that." And I reacted honestly, but without thinking through how he might interpret my reaction. And what I said is, "Well, I don't put my name on things. That's not why I do things." And this is someone who puts his name on everything. And he got very upset with me. And he said, "You have to understand the reason you put your name on things, the reason you do things publicly is your opportunity to teach your peers what they're supposed to do because they don't know. We learn by others' actions." And then he insisted, "What do you want to call it?" Well, at this point he was upset. I said, "Whatever you want to call it is fine with me." But it was an important lesson. If we do these things in secrecy, we're not setting an example for our peers. We're not setting an example for the rest of the community. And so I don't still put my name on things, but I talk a lot to people about what we're doing and why we're doing things. I pretty vigorously recruit people that may not be as connected to the community to organizations, events, to get them connected to the community. And I think that's another part of our legacy. Like how have we lifted the community up as a whole? And it's not just by writing checks, and it's not just by getting involved with a couple of nonprofits. We can teach other people through our actions, right? Through leadership. We can teach them how to get involved as well.
Yeah, when I look at legacy, we talked a little bit about the legacy of each of us as a person, the legacy of us as a family unit with our children and our siblings and our spouses. We talked about our career. We talked about financial legacy. And this last one of community really is important. And I think you touched on it just then. Even if it's, you know, you have a great business and you're very generous with nonprofits. You and your wife and your kids are very generous personally. And the community at large know who you are, and they lean on you when they need help. You know, you've got people like I do that you can throw them a lifeline if they need something. Or if, you know, you do a lot of mentoring, I know, and I do, and Jody does, and it really is a much bigger legacy. And I think to sum this up a little bit today, I wasn't sure where it was going to go, but I am surprised. I'm not surprised. I'm excited about people that watch this might come away now with an idea on, having a legacy doesn't mean you have to be super famous like Maya Angelou or, Steve Jobs or someone like that. No, you can have your own legacy that's going to influence your current generation and future generations in a positive way. So think about it, that, you know, all of your actions really are important and can make a difference to someone else's life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a great topic, Mark, and I'm so glad you reached out to me to talk about this.
Yeah, this was fun. I really enjoyed our time together, and I hope that we get together in person soon. But thanks again for being on today. I really appreciate all your input. You're a smart person, a good friend, and I appreciate having you in my life.
Yeah, as do I. Thanks for your leadership on this.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.